Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. June 15th, Kimo. Kimo was a member of an indigenous tribe in a jungle in Ecuador. The tribe name was Waodani, but other tribes called them the Auca, which means naked savages, because of their Stone Age mentality and violent ways. When Kimo was young, he was taught what all the Waodani were taught, that he must spear and live or be speared and die. When today's story takes place, it's been 8 years since Kimo and some other natives surrounded a small group of missionaries and speared them to death. One of the missionaries was Nate Saint, a jungle pilot. On this date, in 1965, Kimo baptized Nate's children, Steve and Kathy Saint.
God can turn a place of senseless death into a place of life. Dark green leaves spilled from the jungle on either side of the muddy trail that Kimo and about 20 others walked. Marge Saint and her 2 older children, Steve and Kathy, had chosen the destination. They were hiking into the sandbar where, 8 years before, Nate Saint, her husband, and their father had been killed and buried by Kimo and others. They crossed a ridge, forded streams, descended toward a river, and dug out canoes poled downstream. When Kimo stepped out of the canoe onto the sandbar, memories rushed at him. Here the foreigners had shouted in his language, "We are your friend," but he, along with Daiwi and Minkaye and 3 others, had spear-killed the men who had given them gifts. The men had guns, but they didn't shoot them. The men who had cried, "Why are you doing this?" Kimo's heart hurt. His tribe, the Waodani, had once been the most violent society on earth. Now, because of Wanganji, their native word for the Creator's Son, Jesus Christ, they had changed. Kimo looked at Steve and Kathy's Aunt Rachel. When she had come to live with the people who had killed her brother, it had surprised Kimo. She had told them Wanganji's son came down to the dirt to save his people from the darkness in their hearts. Kimo believed her, and he stood taller. Tomorrow, he and the others would give this place new memories. Kimo scanned the beach. Jaguar tracks printed in the sand, and it was growing dark. Some of the Waodani gathered cane poles with palm fronds to make shelters, and others fished for supper. Evening mist settled, the fires burned, and the monkey meat and fish stewed in pots. The next morning, the group gathered for a holy ceremony. The light-skinned children who visited during school vacations would be baptized with 2 Waodani teens. Kathy and Steve had honored Kimo and Daiwi by asking the men to baptize them because Wanganji's son had changed the warriors into God followers. Kimo spoke to Wanganji. Seasons and seasons ago, he prayed, "We came here to do a bad thing that made your heart cry. But now look, we have come back to this same sand place to make your heart happy." After the prayer, Kimo and Daiwi lowered the children into the river. When they raised the children, the water ran off. Their faces were bright. Kimo told them to follow God's trail, living happily and at peace. Afterwards, the warriors led the family into the edge of the jungle. They pointed to a tree stump. This is where the 5 foreign God followers built their sleeping house when they came to bring us God carvings and teach us to live well, they said. It is also where the God followers were buried. Look, Marge pointed to the ground where 4 plants with bright red flowers grew. Wouldn't it have been special if there had been 5? But Mother, said Steve, wasn't Ed's body found and buried farther downriver? About 10 feet downriver from the treehouse stump, they saw another plant with the same bright red blossom. In John 10:10, Jesus told us, "The thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life." Do you have a place of death, literal or metaphorically, that needs to become a place of life? Ask God to take your death place from the clutches of destruction and remake it into something good. God can turn a place of senseless death into a place of life.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.